For over 2,000 years, the ruins of Babylon lay buried beneath sand and silence. Empires rose, religion spread. Critics argued, skeptics dismissed entire sections of ancient scripture as legend. And then archaeologists pulled a clay cylinder out of the ground. Not a manuscript, not a copied tradition, not a monk's retelling, a royal inscription. The Cyrus cylinder, written in the 6th century BC, preserved in clay, the voice of a conquering king carved into history, and what it records changes the conversation. A battered clay cylinder, dust still clinging to its grooves, lines of cuneiform pressed deep, running in tight spirals around its surface. Not a legend, not a rumor, not a priest's memory. This is the king's own proclamation, sealed in the earth beneath Babylon's walls. British Museum Catalog Number BM90920, unearthed by Hormuzd Rassam in 1879. It is 23 centimeters long and 8 centimeters across, written in the language of empire, Akkadian. Now listen to what it says. The voice is unmistakable. I am Cyrus, king of the world, king of Babylon, king of Sumer, and Akkad. The words are not a boast, they are a statement of fact. The inscription does not begin with conquest, but with justification. The gods of Babylon, it claims, were angry with Nabonidus, the last Babylonian king. Marduk, chief among them, searched the lands for a ruler who would honor him. Cyrus declares himself chosen. He called me by name. He appointed me to rule over all the lands. No swords drawn, no siege, no burning gates. The text is blunt. I entered Babylon in peace. I did not allow trouble for the people of the city and all its sanctuaries. Think about that. The most powerful city in the world, taken without a fight, because the gods willed it, if you believe the king. The city's temples, looted and neglected under Nabonidus, are restored. The gods' statues returned to their shrines. I returned the gods to their cities. I gathered their people and let them go home. This is not a vague gesture. The cylinder spells out a policy: repatriation, restoration, rebuilding. Cyrus does not just conquer, he repairs. He claims to free people from forced labor. He orders the repair of Babylon's walls and quays. He tells the priests, the exiles, the conquered, go back, rebuild, worship as you did before. Imagine being an ancient captive hearing this decree read aloud in the city square. For generations, foreign kings had destroyed temples and scattered peoples. Cyrus promises the opposite. But stop and ask, why was this cylinder buried in the city's foundations? Why inscribe these words in clay and hide them in the earth? Because this was not just a boast. It was a royal record, a legal act, a claimed legitimacy, meant to last as long as the bricks themselves. The king's own account, the first-person voice of empire, echoing across millennia. But a single inscription, no matter how ancient, cannot stand alone. Words can be propaganda, claims can be self-serving. So what comes next? The search for corroboration in other tablets, other records, other voices. Only then can we test whether this king's story matches the world he ruled. Stone tablets, baked clay, cuneiform marks pressed by hands that never knew the word Bible. These are not echoes of the king's proclamation. They are independent records written by scribes with their own loyalties, their own gods, their own reasons to remember. The Nabonidus Chronicle sits at the heart of this evidence. British Museum tablet BM 35382. 75 lines survive. Its voice is cool, almost clinical. No hymns, no prayers, just the facts. Nabonidus gone from Babylon, the Akitu festival abandoned, the priests uneasy. Then, in the 17th year, the story turns. The Persian army, under Cyrus's commander Ugbaru, takes Sippar without a fight. Not a single line about burning, not a word of resistance. Babylon's gates open. Ugbaru enters. Nabonidus flees. Days pass. Cyrus himself arrives. The city submits. The chronicle records that the troops of Cyrus entered Babylon without battle. Let's slow this down. The chronicle is not alone. In the archives of Sippar and Borsippa, business tablets keep rolling forward, with records of grain, taxes, land sales, and temple offerings. The names on the seals change. The language stays the same, one governor out, another in. The machinery of empire keeps turning. No gap in the record, no sign of a city sacked or burned. Archaeologists dig through Babylon's layers, searching for evidence of destruction. They find none, no burn layer, no toppled walls. The Ishtar gate stands, repaired and reused. The Atemenanki ziggurat still rising, bricks stamped with Nabonidus' name, then Cyrus's. The city's bones remain unbroken. Administrative tablets tell their own story. Seal impressions bear the names of Persian officials, Ugbaru, Gubaru, Gobrius, etched into clay just months after the conquest. Tax receipts, land grants, temple inventories. The bureaucracy does not stutter, it adapts. Coins minted in the new king's name read Cyrus, Great King, King of Babylon. Independent sources, different authors, different motives, same story. The city falls without a fight. The priests keep their rituals. The temples are restored. The people go back to their work. Not one voice, but many, converging on the same point, a transition, not a catastrophe. Stack these records side by side, the royal inscription, the priestly chronicle, the business archives, the silent, undisturbed earth, each one a witness, each one narrowing the margin for error. This is not legend. This is ground truth. Now, compare these facts to the stories told in Scripture: Hebrew, Greek, Arabic. Watch where the lines match and where they do not. Open the book of Daniel, not a monument, not a stone. A text, copied and recopied, but carrying names and dates that once sounded like fiction. Belshazzar, king of Babylon. For centuries, critics called him a ghost. No inscription, no king list, just a shadow in Hebrew memory. Then the clay tablets surfaced. Belshazzar, son of Nabonidus, co-regent in Babylon's final days. The biblical scribe did not guess. He recorded the name history had almost erased. Now turn to the scene. A palace feast, 1,000 nobles. The gold vessels of Jerusalem, seized by Nebuchadnezzar, brought out for one last night of pride. A hand writes on the plaster wall, Mene Mene Tekel Upharsin. Daniel stands before the king, translating doom. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Not a vague oracle. A coalition named before the city fell, before the Persians ruled the world. Ezra's scroll picks up the thread. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord stirred his spirit. The decree is quoted, word for word, the house of God to be rebuilt, the exiles to return, the treasures restored. The language is bureaucratic, legal, unmistakable. A royal edict, not a legend. But pause. Who wrote these accounts and when? Scholars argue. Some say Daniel was penned centuries later, during the Maccabean crisis. Its visions, they claim, are retrospective, not predictive. Others point to the precision of names, the structure of empires, the texture of court ritual, details a late writer could not have known, details only the clay would one day confirm. The debate sharpens. Is this prophecy, or is it history disguised as vision? One thing is clear. The Hebrew texts do not deal in myth. They anchor their story in the machinery of empire, kings, decrees, dates, and foreign names. They invite verification. They risk exposure. Measure them against the records of Babylon, and the margins for error shrink. This is not the silence of legend. This is the challenge of specificity. Silence can be telling. Open the Quran and look for Babylon's last night, for the fall of the city, for the Persian entry, for the decree of a foreign king who sends exiles home. The pages stay quiet. No Nabonidus, no Belshazzar, no Cyrus, no edict echoing through ruined halls. The story of empires turning, of temples rebuilt, is simply not there. What do you find instead? Stories of prophets, Abraham, Moses, Joseph, told in sweeping arcs. Lessons of faith, warnings, promises. But the machinery of history, the gears and levers, the names and dates, fade into the background. The Quran gives us a king called Dhul Qarnayn, the two-horned one. He travels to the edges of the earth, builds a wall of iron, and faces down the chaos of Gog and Magog. Is he Alexander? Is he Cyrus? Is he someone else entirely? Commentaries debate. Classical scholars offer possibilities, but never certainty. The narrative remains wrapped in allegory, not pinned to a year, a city, or a king's decree. Why this gap? Muslim theologians have an answer: the doctrine of tahrif, corruption. They say earlier scriptures were altered and rewritten, their truth clouded by time and human hands. Historical details and political drama are suspect, filtered through layers of distortion. Only the Quran, they insist, preserves the uncorrupted message. But here's the question. When clay and stone, Hebrew scribe, and Persian king all converge on the same event, and the later scripture stands apart, what does that silence mean? What do you do with a gap this wide? Let the evidence settle. The implications are waiting. 2 records, 2 languages, same empire. The clay cylinder tells what Daniel wrote. Structure, decree, timeline, etched in earth, not legend. The Quran remains silent on Babylon's fall. That silence is not an accident. Follow the evidence. Let the facts, not tradition, set the boundaries. What do you see?